What is DARVO? I'm Marta. I have been a domestic violence advocate for 10 years now, and I also spend a lot of time speaking about violence against women, stalking, harassment, and bullying. I'm going to be doing a series speaking about these topics, and today I want to talk about what DARVO is. DARVO is an acronym, and it stands for Deny, Attack, and Reverse Victim and Offender. It is a manipulation tactic that abusers use to try and avoid accountability and responsibility for what they have done, and instead make it seem like the victim that they have harmed is actually the one that has abused them. So instead of taking responsibility and accountability, the abuser will point their finger at the victim and blame them. This is sadly a very common tactic and one that I am very familiar with since I sadly experienced my first abusive relationship when I was 16 years old. So let's go through each category. First up, we have deny. This is when the abuser is going to deny that they did anything wrong at all. Next, we have attack, which is one of the scariest parts of DARVO, in my opinion. This is when the abuser is going to attack the character of the victim. They are going to call their credibility into question. They are going to try and intimidate and scare the victim. They may slander and defame the victim. They may spread lies. They will do anything to scare the victim. And then we have reverse victim and offender, and this is when the abuser is going to claim that they are actually the one that has been abused and that the victim is the one that has abused them. This is especially traumatizing for survivors. This is sadly a very common manipulation tactic in abusive relationships, and when I say abusive relationships, I don't only mean romantic relationships. It could be friendships, it could be relationships that you have with family members. This usually happens after a victim has set a boundary or called out their abuser for the harm that they have caused. Now, obviously, both men and women use DARVO, but research does show that women are more likely to be victims of it. So why are women more vulnerable to being victims of DARVO? First off, power imbalances. Men hold a lot of power over women, especially marginalized women, so marginalized women are especially vulnerable to being victims of DARVO. Another reason women are more vulnerable to DARVO is because of the perfect victim myth. This is something we saw in the Amber Heard trial. If a woman is being abused and she reacts to this abuse and she is angry and upset and anxious and distraught, this will be used against her because then she is not being the perfect victim. Women are socialized to be polite and kind and to not raise our voices ever. So if we react to abuse in a way that isn't palatable to men, they will use that against us. If false accusations are made, if a woman is being manipulated and she becomes upset, a man will say, "You're the problem. See, look, you're angry. You're the abuser." This is all DARVO. I have an example from when I was in a very abusive relationship when I was very young. I had an ex that would just insult me, everything about me. He would go on for hours and hours, and when I would finally break down and cry and ask him to please stop, he would just look at me and say, "See, look, you're unstable, you're yelling." And he would treat me like I was the problem. And that is the goal of DARVO. The goal of DARVO is to make the victim feel like they are the problem, like they are the abuser, like they are the one causing harm, when really it is the other way around. DARVO is a very nefarious form of abuse and manipulation, and it stays with you. And I wish that no other woman ever had to go through it.